I've been in construction about 15 years, but I got into multifamily construction, and then it just morphed into, why are we doing the construction? Why don't we do this ourselves? So that's where it ended up at.
You guys operate value add partners. And for the audience here, the term value add means that the property will be upgraded or fixed immediately after purchase. And part of that means making it look nicer than before you bought it. I've seen some of the walkthroughs that you shared in the group, and a few things stood out to me. The first thing that I think that people getting into real estate don't really realize is what I call the visual aspect to real estate investment. You know, most people, I think they just see 4 walls and some appliances. And I've seen enough real estate to realize that rehabbing and renovating, it's a bit like being a chef. See, most men, they don't spend any time learning how to plate a dish, you know, which is just putting the food on the plate so that it looks nice. But would you say that making a property look nice, would you say it's something that that came with time to you guys and you just got better and better at it? Or were you always passionate about your space from a young age? Like,
well, I've got over 100 million square foot of building and renovation under me. And, you know, I've done here in Detroit just about anything, you know, you can think of. I've converted old hotels into condominiums. We've done ground up construction. And so the thing that always stands out about it with that, it depends on the area you're in. It depends on, you know, what the likes are in that. You know, there's things that trend nationally, but there's also things that trend, you know, kind of regionally, I would say. But we're big fans of, our biggest thing when you're talking about vision is the curb appeal to the property. You know, you can have the best looking units on the inside, but if you don't make the outside look, you know, like bang, where somebody, when they pull in, they're like, yeah, I want to live here. It's all for naught, because it's tough to get them in the units, you know. And so that's where we always start. We always start with the exterior, the curb appeal. We try to make that thing just as sweet as we can, you know, get all the lawns edged up around all the concrete curbs, sidewalks, things like that, rip out old shrubs, because many of the properties you go into, there's these shrubbery there. Yeah, you can trim it up, but it's usually so far gone, it's not salvageable. So you're better off, you know, jerking that and coming up with some other type of a landscape design, you know, for around the building, something that's a little bit more maintenance friendly. You don't want stuff that you're constantly having to trim and manage and stuff like that. Get the canopies on the trees raised up, you know, and one of the really big things is parking lots. You know, resealing and striping a lot is not super expensive, and it just adds so much to that property, you know, when people first start to pull in. And, you know, if you've got one that has a lot of down units in it, you know, it's going to take a while to fill that up. You need every kind of tool in your toolbox that you can to make people want to come there, you know. So we focus on the outside first, but the inside we look at, it's kind of like we look at the area, you know. I've always said we want to be the best apartment around, but not 10,000 times better. We want to be just a little bit better, you know. So if the standard in the area is, you know, laminate countertops, I mean, there's nothing wrong with going with that. But one of the things that might set you apart is going with a hard surface counter. You know, we see a lot of carpet in apartments, and carpet is a nightmare, you know, for landlords, for a lot of different reasons. I don't care what brand you buy, the padding you put down, whatever. Usually there's traffic areas and those just get absolutely destroyed. And so, you know, you get a couple of years out of it before it looks so bad. And then not only that, just, you know, there's just so many other things going on with that. You know, if there's issues with bugs, if you have carpet in there, it's so much harder to, you know, to tackle that. So we typically go with a vinyl plank flooring, but, you know, on some of the higher end stuff, we're not opposed to, you know, using tile in certain areas, kitchens, bathrooms, you know, things along that line. And we try to standardize everything we do. So if you walked into an apartment that we had in Texas, or you walked into one we had in Illinois, once you walked inside, you really wouldn't know a big difference, because the units would be the same. That goes toward reducing your maintenance costs, because if you have one, you know, kitchen sink cartridge for your faucet, because that's what goes bad. The faucet never goes bad, it's the cartridge that goes bad. So you have one, but you're using it everywhere. Well, then you only got to stock 1 or 2 of those in your maintenance room. And if your maintenance guy, if they have a problem, boom, they go in, they swap it out, it's done. Same thing with like shower valves, sink valves, just everything. Standardize everything, and it really reduces. Most of the properties, when we go in there, you look at their maintenance shed, and it's a disaster. I mean, they've got all kinds of different parts and pieces, and you walk in the unit, you got this here, that there. It's just you know, there's just no rhyme or reason to it. So we try to streamline the units And we're looking always at the maintenance because, if
That's
you
the
save
expense.
a dollar in maintenance, it's a real dollar. But if I raise the rent by $1, I'm only getting 50 cents of that dollar, or depending on what my operating expenses are, somewhere around there.
I got to admit, the reason why I asked is because in my outline here of my different questions, I actually wrote it before I saw that you served in the Navy there, Daryl. So I was kind of walking around. It's like, okay, there's a joke hiding in here, and I don't want to reveal it too quickly. And I was saying, like, I know that when I was talking about, plating a dish and the things that don't occur to many people, that was my gentle way of saying that, did you always like making things look nice, Daryl? Like it doesn't sound as friendly when you say it. It's like, oh yeah, so you like to make things pretty. Because I know where I grew up, if I turned around to other guys and I was like, you know what, we got to do something about those curtains. Those curtains, they're not going to work at all. It's like, oh, you got a problem with the curtains? And like that I'd never live that down. I'd never live that down.
Right, and we've had our one argument we've ever had was about the placement of a refrigerator. He was like, let's put it here. I was like, why don't we put it in the middle of the room? It was just one of those arguments.
Why don't we put it in the bathroom?
That was like our official argument that we've had. We finish each other's sentences. Everything is good, but that one refrigerator thing was the one thing that we got onto each other about.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really even that angry about it. He was like, oh, you were so mad. And I was like,
So this show focuses on attention to detail as a tool for building your business or career when you don't know anyone to help you out. But just for the people who want to get into real estate and they're complete slobs in their home life, do you think that it's an important part of real estate investment to make things look nicer, and can it be learned? That's I think the most important question I have for you guys. Making things look nicer.
I think even in anything that we do, we try to make sure that it gives a certain projection of cleanliness, and from our social media to our print media and our curb appeal on our properties. And like Daryl was saying earlier, you could have bales of hay inside and have the outside looking beautiful, and people would want to go inside. Definitely attention to detail is huge, and I think it can be learned. And I think for people that are starting out, it will take one or two times for maybe them to figure out, like, oh, maybe I don't need to do this, or maybe I don't need to do that. And then they'll see somebody else down the street have a house for sale that's immaculate on the outside, and they'll get all the people. So I definitely think it's something that can be learned. I definitely think that it's something that needs to be done, and I definitely think that if they go to area meetups or anything like that and talk to other investors, they would all say the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of our slogans is kind of like, we take turds and polish them into diamonds. So, that's kind of what we do. We look for those ugly properties like that, and the situation what Kevin was saying too is what people getting started have to understand is this is a team type sport. You can be a solopreneur and you can own 100% of stuff, but you can't scale that way unless you just got a massive bank account, or you got a rich uncle or something. And even that is hard. You need to partner up with people. So what we try to do is we partner with people in areas that we're weak. We look for people that are strong in those areas. We try to surround ourselves with the very best people that we can find, because Kevin's very good at this presentation of he's very particular about, how our stuff is presented to people, whether it be, the offerings that we're making and things like that. We have our attorneys that are part of our team. We have our accountants part of our team. When I say part of our team, they're not just hired hands. They're part of our team. They actually are, part of our team. They get part of our deals. And, you got to get out of that solopreneur mindset. That's what you really need to do. I mean, if you want to take down a couple smalls on your own, that's fine, kind of get your feet wet. But if you really want to scale this and build it into something, it's near impossible to do it on your own. There's very, very few people that have done it. And, just like I said, just logistically, just trying to get to these different spaces. And that's one of the things Kevin didn't mention about himself, is Kevin currently operates in 37 different states here, and he's got contacts all over the states. So, we're able to pull people in from different places. Don't be afraid to lean on people and ask questions. They're chomping at the bit to help you. You just gotta know where to go to ask.
I get cold calls and letters at least 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's email right now. A lot of it you're just getting, you're getting hit every day, literally with emails coming in and stuff like that. And, it's good because, you never know what they have. And, we talk to a lot of different people, and you never know what kind of connection is going to come out of what conversation you're going to have. So, don't always just dismiss that stuff right away, because you can flip the script, on these folks when they're calling you and just say, well, you know what, I'm not a seller right now, but what do you got? I'm a buyer. And, boom, now all of a sudden it might open up something you didn't even know about. And a lot of times in situations like that, wholesalers, I'm not a big fan, I'll be honest. And the reason is they end up complicating the deal. And we try to deal with them directly and just basically say, look, we're not going to try to go around you. We'll sign a thing that says we guarantee your fee.
Right.
But we need to be direct to the seller, and we need to, we need to have the financials. They're always like proof of funds. Yeah, it's a $40 million project. Yeah, I'll just run to the bank and, get a printout on my bank statement. I got
what have I got on me here? Let me see.
Exactly. Yeah, right. It's like, the wholesalers that are out there, think about that for a minute. I can't make an educated decision about making an offer on this property without the financials, the current financials of what's going on. Because, you really got to scour through that stuff. And people say, oh, we're 96% occupied. Well, you might have a physical occupancy of 96%. What's your economic, especially right now? What's the economic occupancy? Is it 60%? So those are things you gotta look at. But, wholesalers are great. They bring us a lot of stuff. We have a lot of deals through wholesalers, and some of them, sometimes it works out. It's real easy to lose a bunch of money really quick. And, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, man. That's just it. You got to go out and you got to kiss a lot of frogs and see what you can dig up on there. And don't be afraid to make some crazy offers, seriously. A guy once told me if you're not embarrassed by what you're offering for this, you're paying too much.
Yeah, it's too much. That's
it's a starting point, right? It's a starting point. So, there you go.
Yeah, the right person on the right day.
Yeah, if I can add to that, you just have to be careful, in my opinion, that if you're sending in a lowball offer, as opposed to saying, this is my offer, this is my offer, that's it, maybe going down the road of, I'm kind of coming in around a 1.5 number and you're asking 2, is this something that we can work on, or is this too far off, as opposed to saying 1.5, that's my final offer, take it or leave it, or at least maybe be able to start a dialogue with them to say, no, they won't take that, but they may take 1.7, or, it's a good way to, it's not like TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Demonstrate a certain amount of flexibility seems to be the key, like obviously don't, one thing I remember, I became an entrepreneur pretty early in my life. And one thing I learned very quickly to never, ever do is, like, if you're selling something, it's like, oh, I'm thinking 15, 20 bucks. It's like, well, you just said 15. So never, ever, ever give a range like that. It's really, really important, but you should still have some flexibility. But back to being pestered all the time as an owner. What about text messages, SMS text messages? How often do you get hounded via text message to sell your buildings?
I don't get that very often.
Yeah. And it's increasing. It just depends. You eventually end up on somebody's list, and then, they sell that list and whatever. There's all kinds of, there's a legal way to do it, and there's a way to not do it legally.
Right, but what's the thing that most people who cold contact you do or don't do that gives them a better chance of you doing business with them? What are some things that make somebody stand out when they're cold contacting you?
I would say for me it would be knowing that they're keeping the deal. Like, if it were, I thought about this the other day when I got my other postcard that's all, that looks like it's handwritten, but it's really done by a computer type thing. Like, if I imagine that there's a lot of people, I always thought about this. I imagine there's a lot of people out there that would be apt to selling their place if they knew that you were keeping it for either your portfolio or you were keeping it for yourself, like, as opposed to doing the typical wholesaler where they're just a middleman and going through. Like, for me, I've done that, and I live in a smaller town outside of Fort Worth, and I've gone around to people and say, listen, I'm keeping this for myself. And I've talked to these people and they're like, well, we've had a couple other offers. And I was like, this is the offer I can give you. This is the best offer I can do, but I'm keeping it for myself and keeping it in my own portfolio. They're like, okay. And so they ended up selling it to me. So that's helped. That I can see that being that way as opposed to just being like running cattle through.
Right, right. Do you think that's because the owners, they have some sort of loyalty to their tenants, and they say it's like, okay, if I give it to a wholesaler, then who knows who's actually going to be taking care of my tenants, even though they're not mine anymore? Do you think that's what's going through people's heads, and that's why they prefer it, or what exactly do you think the allure is of saying, hey, I'm buying this property, like I want to buy this property, and I intend on taking care of it and improving it, and I'm in for the long haul. What do you think makes the seller feel better if they know you're going to hold it, do you think?
Daryl can speak to it, but personally for me, I would think that they probably initially purchased it because they were going to do the same thing. And so there may be some times like COVID or some other things that have come up to where they just couldn't manage it was unmanageable for them personally, for whatever reason that may be. And so if they know that they're selling it to somebody that used to be in their shoes and they remember the feeling that they had when they first purchased it and they're going to do everything that they can, it may be something that they may be more apt to sell to you to, as opposed to somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to pick it up. I'm more institutional based as opposed to, I think there's a level of personal respect there.
So like idiosyncrasy about the building as well, then I imagine.
Sure, most definitely.
Yeah.
With the mom and pops especially, because that's been their life for the last 20, 30 years. Maybe it's a small 20, 24 unit building, or maybe it's even a little bit bigger, but that's been their life. That's their baby. I mean, maybe they don't own a ton of property. Maybe they just own that one property, and that has been their lifeblood. That's what fed their family for 30 years, all that. Kind of circling back though real quick, you were asking about, one thing I hate is just the pitch right off the get-go when somebody sends me something, take some time to introduce yourself, and just basically say, hey, I'm in this multifamily world. This is what I do. If you ever have a need or something, go ahead and, give me a shout or whatever. Here's my contact. And, if you'll let me know what markets you're looking at or whatever, I can look specifically for you in those areas. But the guy once told me, you never ask for a sale, you never ask for money, and if you don't know, if you're not interested, if you know anybody else that might be interested, I'd appreciate if you, forward my information to them. So, the hard sell coming out, like the furniture salesman, when you walk in a furniture store and they just like, they're on you like, flies. It's like, that's just a big turnoff to me personally. I would rather, okay, maybe it is a matter of having a couple of calls or texts or emails back and forth to kind of get to know one another. And ultimately, I think what the goal of a person, at least our goal, like when we're reaching out to people, it's to get somebody on the phone. Mm-hmm. Email, texting, all that is great, very personal. And I don't know about you, but in the construction industry, it's interesting. I've seen it change over the years. Before all the cell phone, all this technology and stuff, people were much different. They treated people differently on job sites, because you got to tell that person right to their face. You're going to call somebody whatever,
Yeah.
And you got to do it to their face. Well, if you're a keyboard jockey, it's real simple. You can do all you want, you're 150 miles away. So, it's very impersonal. So you got to try to make it personal. And, I would just say, just give yourself an introduction, say what you do, and say, if you have any need for this in the future or right now, I'd be happy to work with you, jump on a phone call. We can talk about what your buying criteria is, what areas you're looking for. I get a lot of deals sent to me, and might be something we can work together on. Yeah, that's one of the things that Kevin and I do, and we partner up with people. And we partner with people. We basically handle the work side of the equation. We partner with people that bring money to the equation. But we do a really deep due diligence when we go out and physically walk these properties. It's not something we're there for a day and do a little Facebook Live, whatever. We're there 3, 4, 5 days, and we go through every unit, and we're looking for stuff, clues. If they're mold in this corner, what's going on with the foundation. There's so many different areas you can look at. And you're right, you got to be a little bit of a detective. But one of the keys that we do, one of the reasons we stay there a couple of days is you want to make friends with the property manager and the maintenance guy that's on site. And a lot of times Kevin and I will take them out to lunch, we'll take them out to dinner, and we pour a couple margaritas in them, and all of a sudden they start talking like that. All the bodies are buried, and that's the main thing. You want to let them know you're generally interested in the property. You're going to try to do this, and they'll start to give you some information that is very hard to come by. It would take a lot more time and due diligence to try to dig it up. And most people, doesn't happen. It gets glossed over, and then all of a sudden they buy this thing, and then it turns out it's like, holy crap, this is what's going on. So you got to be a people person in this industry. You got to be able to talk to people.
As you said, like you used to have 320 employees, right? But you don't hit me as a decadent man. You don't hit me as the kind of American who has like an outdoor hot tub installed in his stretched Hummer with flames down the sides and bald eagles and huge flags flapping.
He doesn't see my garage, has he, Kevin? So.
Oh my gosh! I'm just kidding. No, he's definitely not that type of guy. We are definitely not those type of people.
Yeah, what you see is what you get with Kevin and I. And that's one thing about this industry. You have to be transparent with people.
Mm-hmm.
People, they have that bullshit meter. They can sniff that out really quick when they start talking to people about who's genuine, who's not. And, it's just one of those things. And what purpose does it really serve? I mean, there's scammers out there, whatever. It is what it is. But if you're in this for the long haul, like I said earlier, it's a small world. It's a lot smaller world than you think. You think, oh, the United States is this big country, or Canada's this big country. Internet makes the world very small. And it doesn't take long for all of a sudden now you got a bad reputation. And, I mean, that's what you really have in this industry. You have what your reputation is. So, being open and honest and transparent, with people. That's what we like to say. I never trust anybody that says, trust me, I'm honest. That's the first indicator. But, I'm not, we just like to be, as transparent as we can. We use different platforms and stuff for our investors that they can actually take a look at what's going on in the jobs as we're repositioning this. Communication is absolutely key. And doing that, if you're one of your investors or, any of your partners, if they're emailing you, calling you, whatever. I mean, if you can't take it that minute because you obviously got something else going on, that's fine, but you got to make sure you stay on top of that stuff, because when people start to go radio silent, that's when trouble starts. People are wondering, why is this guy not calling me back?
Yeah.
Especially if they have an issue with something that's going on. So sometimes they're ugly conversations, I mean, that's life. Sometimes life happens and, different things happen. And, whatever, but clamming up and not saying anything, or just, like I said, going radio silent, it's not going to help anybody. And it's not going to definitely help to resolve the issue, whatever it might be, and move forward and get over it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so basically you're saying that, you mentioned trust. And one way that I like to handle trust is I trust anybody until I have to. And then I also set up all my arrangements and contracts and all that kind of stuff as much as I can. All the non, directly legally binding things. I try and make it so that nobody has to trust anybody. We know where our interests are, and it's just as clear as humanly possible. People go out of real estate in the real estate investment business, as far as I know, because either A, they're over leveraged in a downturn, B, they procrastinate on getting deal flow, or C, they got in without anybody experienced in commercial real estate and thought it was like a vending machine. You just put the money in and then more money comes out the bottom each month, and they got a rude awakening. So for the people watching who want to get into real estate and want to know, and I get that some people disappear quietly and others don't, but can you think of other common mistakes to watch out for if you're a newcomer to multifamily investment?
Well, first of all, you got to buy it right. You got to understand how to underwrite a deal. You got to understand the numbers. If you don't understand what your numbers are, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So, that's why it's important to go to somebody like Tim's event or one of these guys' events, or you can get it out of a book too. There's a ton of stuff online, but it's good to be able to talk to people at those types of things, but you really have to understand what the numbers are. You have to understand what the market is. That's where people go wrong, first of all. Or the second place is they get some kind of lending in place. It's predatory, and maybe they get a bridge loan or they get some hard money loan. We're dealing with one here in Detroit right now. It's been in the courts. The bank took the property back, I don't know, back in February. You know, and they've been battling in court with this owner, you know, for a long period of time. But that's everything you have to understand about commercial loans. The bank doesn't have to have a reason. They can call the note whenever they want to call the note. You know, it's not like a mortgage where you have to default on it or something, and you know, they're keeping track of you financially. So if they see that you aren't hitting those projections that you said you were going to hit, you aren't hitting your occupancy the way you said you were going to do it, you're overspending because you underestimated on your construction or your rehab budget, and they can see that there's not something there, they're going to call a note, and they can do it. And that's what's happened here. And fortunately for these guys that own it, you know, they're in a very sympathetic county here in Wayne County in Michigan.
Right.
And the courts are very sympathetic. And so it's going to take quite a bit for the judge to really pull that property from you. But they're actually going to be in court tomorrow, 17th. And I'm sure the judge is going to make a decision at that point what's going to happen, because this has been drug out for 6 months. Some of it's COVID related or whatever. So yeah, if you get a bad loan on the deal, or you know, you don't buy it right, and the one area where we see most people going, and you go to these seminars or whatever, and you learn how to do this, and they say, oh, you know, a light rehab is $3,000, and you know, a moderate one's like maybe 7 to 10, and a heavy one's like 15. You know, you can't do that. I mean, it's okay to do it for your underwriting and just kind of get some numbers together. But you have to have some professionals come out there and walk that and develop hard numbers on that repositioning, because that's where most people go wrong, and they run out of money, and then they have to figure out a way, or they try to force a deal and they try to come in underfunded right from the get-go. You know, they don't have enough to do it, and they aren't going to see the rent increases that they're projecting. They're not going to see that because they didn't bring enough money to the table to begin with, you know. And so, yeah, I'd say the buy is the big thing. You know, you got to buy it right. You got to make sure it's funded right. And then on the fixed part of it, you know, you got to make sure you're dealing with people that understand what's going on and can do some solid numbers for you and get you some good, accurate information.
I would say also the other thing, a couple other things would be the asset class that you're buying in. There's a lot of people, and I've been guilty of it, where they'll see D-class properties in D-class areas that are literally like $10,000 a unit, and they think that, you know, that they can go in there and do the rehab on it, and then everything is going to be just fine. But the you know, nothing personal against anybody, but the clientele that you're going to have in there is going to be a management nightmare. So they're thinking that the rents are going to be the rents, and they're going to pay every single month. But by the time, from the management perspective, you're going to spend more time and more money on management than you will than the income that's coming in. So that, I would say, is definitely something that I've seen a lot of properties for sale in certain areas. You know, Memphis is one of them. Memphis has a ton of deals that come up, but the areas that they're for sale, you know, they were hoping that like FedEx was going to come in and make everything better, and it didn't. And the other area is also the A-class areas. You know, you have A-class properties that, you know, when times are good, before COVID, for example, the economy was great. You know, things where people were making money and they were spending money. And so when there's a economic decline, or when there's a COVID or some sort of issue that comes up, A-class people are going to move to B-class properties. So that leaves the A-class properties not only very expensive on the note, but you're not going to have people that can afford to live in there. So people will lose their ass on that, because there's no way to cover the note, because nobody can afford the rents. So you either got to reduce the rents and turn it into a B-plus property, or just take the hit and try and sell it. You know, so I would say the asset class is very important as well.
Yeah, and unit mix too. And even when you're looking at these properties, unit mix. If you got a ton of studios, man, you got to look at the area you're in. You know, studios, one bedrooms, they can turn more often, and turning units, man, that costs money. You know, if you got 2 and 3 bedroom units, yeah, there's more to them, but, you know, tend to get a more stable tenant because it's a family, it's not a single person. You know, 1 bedrooms, you know, you get new couples, you know, young couples and stuff. The turns are still more frequent on ones and studios. in twos or threes, though, generally speaking. So, you know, if you get something that's real lopsided, like you got a 100-unit building and 50 of them are studios and 25 are, you know, whatever, one bedrooms, and you got 20 that are, you know, 25 that are, you know, twos. Having a better balance on a mix is something that you want to look at as well.
Okay, so you want basically 2/3 of them to not be studios, is what you're saying.
Well, it depends on the market. If you're like in a big college town or something like that, sometimes studios work. Or if you're in like an urban area, New York or something like that, and that's one area we say.
You're in the internet world, so you would know. You know, generally, you know, folks that are just, you know, wanting to start businesses and things like that. Studios, people are cool with that. You know, people will handle a 1-bedroom or a studio, and they just need killer internet access and Ubers. You know what I mean? So it all depends on the area.
It depends on the area, right? Exactly. If you've got like a big, you know, downtown booming area, like there's parts of Detroit that are great. There's parts that are absolutely horrific. It's like every big urban city. But if you're in one of those areas where it's booming and the kids all want to live there, man, those lofts, or those studios, they can actually do real well. And so, you know, again, it's about knowing your market,
and knowing the area, just knowing your area, you know, that you're investing in. Really take the opportunity, even if you have an opportunity, if you're going to look at investing in an area, you know, maybe spend a couple days in that area and, you know, go to the restaurants and hang out and go to the bar scene and just, I don't know, just kind of get to know that area a little bit. That will kind of give you a good vibe on what's happening. There's websites out there, Area Vibe, you know, all these other ways that you can look at the demographics, you know, the school districts, things like that, which are real important. But you know, if you're going to invest millions of dollars in an area, you know, a couple days on a flight or a road trip is not going to hurt anything to kind of check out the area and see what people think and go from there.
Yeah, right. Or at least you should have somebody on the team who, you know, like that's something that, you know, they live for that sort of thing, totally. You know, if you really, really hate it. But I appreciate those answers because I want people to have realistic expectations, at least if they've got the self-awareness, right? Like especially like last year, I don't know if you know this, there were a bunch of real estate coaches that got shut down by the SEC. The company I was working for, we never had any issues with that because my boss at the last real estate company. He was actually doing the flips on top of the coaching, you know, but the reason why the SEC shut them down is because they were saying that there's no real likelihood of becoming successful at real estate investment. What do you guys say about that? Let's get Kevin to start, if you don't mind.
I would say that there is some truth to that. I would expect that there's a lot of quote gurus out there that have never done a deal and everything works on paper. But everything is not all about working on paper. You know, there actually is processes and systems and things that need to be put in place. Like in my background, we help develop managerial systems and maintenance systems for the properties that we did work on. So, you know, there's a process and a procedure, and it's one thing to be able to do it on paper, but it's another thing to actually execute it. So I would say that is not true because it depends on how much value you put into the education portion of it. Yes, you need to learn every single thing you need to do, but the only way that I learn is by actually doing it. So I would not necessarily start out with a 300-400 unit property. Maybe try and do a fourplex if you're you know, dipping your feet in the water, or maybe even a 5 and above is considered 5 properties, 5 units and above is considered a commercial loan. So maybe get 5 or 10 units, you know, and then just kind of dive into it that way. You have less risk because you have less to lose. You know, if you get into the 300-400 unit properties, you know, you lose big. So I would disagree. I think everybody could be successful at it. I really do. It's just a matter of getting the right people in the right spot and being able to execute your plan, you know, and being able to humble enough to ask for help if you need it, and be able to give up equity if you need that help. You know, one of the things you were talking about earlier that I didn't get a chance to mention was, the trust factor. Definitely trust is a big deal, but there's a saying that's trust but verify. Always verify, they said that everything is done. I trust that you did it. Carlos, you always do good for me, but I'm still going to check you. I'm still going to make sure that it's done. So I disagree. I think I think everybody has the potential, to be successful in real estate, but you really have to harness what your goals are. You really have to harness what your goals are. And that's what Daryl and I have done. We have a buy criteria. We have certain things that we'll do, but definitely start small and go big. I'm all about going big, but definitely start out, in a comfort zone and then move from there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And Daryl, what do you think? Do you think there's no real likelihood of becoming successful at real estate? Because your partner says that that's hooky.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. So some of it is you get what you pay for, and you gotta know the right questions to ask before you sign up for one of these programs. And I learned this. I got lessoned in this by some of the programs that I attended before I went to Tim's. So the first thing I asked was, "Is there an upsell here?" And when I went there, they said no. And that was true at the time. I know he's morphed in some other stuff that he does, some coaching stuff, some other things. But when I asked him that, that's what I wanted, because I wanted to know, are you going to lay out the whole program? Because a lot of these other programs, they dribble a little bit of real estate in there, and it's a bunch of touchy, feel good, hoorah, rah. And then it's like, well, yeah, but we got this coaching program for this if you don't quite feel comfortable moving forward. So they're making their money on the upsell, as far as that goes. The second question I asked is, the guy that's actually developed this or came up with this, is he the guy teaching it, or is she the person teaching this, or are they the presenter or one of the presenters? Because I went to an Armando thing a long time ago, total scam. A situation where, it was all marketed, it was this, that. It was just upsell. And that being said, you could have taken the information you learned there and you could have done some stuff with it. But the stuff you were given was very vague, and you could tell it was designed to do that. Here's the biggest thing I tell people about doing any of these. Look at them, ask those kind of questions. Some of the other ones I wouldn't say that about. I'm not going to mention their names, but I wouldn't say that about some other ones. But you have to understand, when you go into this, you have to have something you're bringing to the table. You have to have a piece of the pie, like I like to say. This multifamily investing is like going to a picnic or a potluck or whatever you want to call it. And I have to have something to bring. If I have nothing to bring, if I don't have money to bring to the deal, if I don't have a balance sheet to bring to the deal, if I don't have property management experience, if I don't have the construction management experience, if I'm not willing to be the boots on the ground guy and run all around all over checking out different deals, whatever, you got to figure out what your piece of the pie is there. Maybe you have a great network of really wealthy friends, and that's what you're bringing to the table. You're an investor relation person. You got to figure out what that piece is, because if you come to the table and you don't have a piece, you're not going to get there, because there's no value in partnering with somebody like that. That's where the mentorships come in. Then you need to buy into a mentorship where you can learn an aspect of that or do something. But if you don't have anything to bring to the table, people with the networking, they're all very cordial and they'll talk to you, but there's really no partnership opportunity if you don't know what your lane is. And you got to know where you're at and understand, I'm going to have to partner with other people that handle this aspect of it. I got to build that team, build that relationship with these folks. And ours is always changing. We do deals with different people. Like, this one down in Rockport is with one group. This one up in Illinois, it's with a different group, That's what Kevin and I do. We handle the work side of stuff, and we partner with people that can bring capital, that can bring balance sheets, that can do things like that. You handle the money side, we'll get it done. And, it's things like that. And so that's what I think the big thing is. I think, like Kevin, I think anybody can really do it. It's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of nights we're up till 12, 1, 2 in the morning. Friday night, we were on a call with a guy in California. So I'm Eastern time zone, He's out on the West Coast. I think that phone call went into 1 o'clock in the morning, And it's nuts, and that's the way those things are. And, it's just, I tell people all the time, I think I'm joking, but my phone is on all the time, I may not answer it always like after midnight or something like that, but my phone's always on, because you know, we're always looking to do deals with people, and I just never know what's going to come on up. And so this is what we do. You know, this is exactly what we do. So you have to make yourself available too.
And we really love it, you know, like we really, really love real estate. I think real estate for me, the best way I describe it to my girls, I got 2 girls, one's 10 and one's 12, and I'm trying to get them to understand the value of money and stuff like that. And one of the things I always tell them is that you really make money on stuff that you love to do, you know, and for me personally, the real estate is it's the lottery ticket that I have a say-so in, you know, for me, because I know that there's so much value in real estate and being able to scale it. And, you know, and we're not looking for like the Hummers or the planes or the watches or anything like that. We're looking for the stability and the legacy to be able to live our lives the way that we want to. You know, that's really, really what it all boils down to. And where the girls, or my girls and our kids and our family never have to worry, and they can always dream big, you know, and not have money as a constraint, you know. But we really love what we do. You know, we really love meeting new people. We love traveling to new assets. We love turning stuff that looks terrible into something amazing. And then we love seeing the machine work, you know, and so that's really something that, that I would say is a big thing for us, is that we really love this. And, so I thought I'd just.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. It's because I remember when I was around 20 is the first time I heard somebody say, do what you love and the money will follow.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And at that time, I started teaching guitar at the local music store. That's why I got pretty nails on this hand and no nails on this hand. Yeah. So I started teaching guitar at the local music store when I was 16. And I remember being told that, oh, yeah, do what you love and the money will follow. And I'm like, yeah, that's because, you know, you lived through the 70s and all the inflation that happened. If you had a house, you should be loaded right now.
Right.
So, you know, that was my answer then. But I was picking it apart for roughly 20 years and going, like, how is that true? What was, like, you know, the guy couldn't have been completely out to lunch saying that do what you love and the money will follow. But the baby in the bathwater, I think, for that one is, if you do what you love, you'll put in more work than anybody else. And that's one of the key things. It's about the grind. It's, you know, it's the motivation. I know you guys love America, and I bet you love the American dream as much as I do. But a lot of people say the American dream is dead. And real estate is one of the reasons why I say that's not true. But what do you guys think? You know, like real estate and non-real estate. Do you think the American dream is still alive and kicking?
I can answer. I think it is. I think the American dream is there. We've met a lot of people from many demographics that are doing real estate and starting their own businesses within real estate. So I definitely think that the availability is still there. I think that you know, right now is a little bit trying times. You know what I mean? So. I think right now people could argue that, but I definitely think that the American dream is still alive and still well, and anybody has the opportunity, you know, just like I do. So I definitely think that the American dream is still there, and we're hopeful, and even we even let people know that when we're doing like the one in Rockport and actually the one in Rantoul, we're erecting 2 American flags poles that are going to be put on these sites. You know, we want people to know that we're proud of us and proud of our work and proud Americans, you know, and that, you know, that this is probably, and people would argue it, but, you know, we still feel that this is the greatest country in the world. So I would say yes.
Yeah, yes. That's fantastic. And the reason I bring it up, I ask this because when I look at the system of real estate deals, and I'm trying to tear apart this whole SEC conclusion that there's no real way of doing it, but I think there's one Achilles heel to getting into this business. Daryl alluded to it, which is like, you know, if you have no money or no balance sheet. And like, that's an important to distinguish the two, right? Because like, you know, you don't necessarily have to have money if you have some wealth, and you don't have to have wealth if you've got some money. But if you don't have either, you better have something else going on. But so if you want to get the loan, though, it requires a sponsor, and the loan and the sponsor has to have a net worth of at least the size of the value of the loan. And I don't really have a solution to that, but what do you guys think? Is that as big of a problem as I think it is, or do you have some advice to people who want to get into multifamily who won't be doing it with 1031 exchanges?
I just want to double back on your last question, man.
Yep.
And for those of people that haven't been outside the country and haven't seen what people in the rest of the world look like, you can't really gain the appreciation for this country, and even Canada, for that matter, because our social economics are very similar and stuff like that. People do not understand. You hit the freaking lottery when you were born in America, man. You absolutely hit the lottery. You have so much opportunity to basically go and do, and you know what? If you fail, so what? Get back up and keep fighting. You fail in other countries, they might throw your butt in jail forever. I mean, it's insane. Mm-hmm. So when you don't know how the rest of the world operates, and this is all you've ever known, that's kind of the rub we have as Americans, is we feel like we're entitled, and they're right. There's generations that feel like they're entitled. This is because they haven't seen what's out there. They don't see how the rest of the world lives, and they don't see this opportunity. So when people say, "Oh, I can't do that," Henry Ford said, "Yeah, you're right," because you said you can't, not because the opportunity isn't there. The opportunity is there to go and do. I told you about my parents, a bus driver and a truck driver, and they, with the limited knowledge they had and the limited money that they had, they were able to build that up. Where else in America, where else in the world can you do that? We had friends that moved over here from Germany that they worked for the Bosch Corporation, and they were here for a period of time, and they had to leave and go back. They were devastated. They owned a beautiful home on like 15 acres that backed up to this wonderful park. They said, "We can never do this in Germany. We would never be able to buy something like this in Germany." So I don't know. It's all about people taking action. That's where people fail the most, is they don't take the action on it. So they get this information from this course and they don't act upon it. They don't do something about it every day. And it can be something little. You don't have to take, it's better if you take massive action. But if you're taking action, you're working toward that thing every day, you're going to get closer and closer and closer. It's like I was telling Kevin, man, this past year, man, we've been pushing this boulder up this freaking mountain, Well, I see the mountaintop. I've seen the mountaintop from day one, but I see the mountaintop. It's much closer. And once it goes over, then, hey, everyone thinks, oh, it's all downhill. No, because I want a short valley. I want to start pushing that thing up the next mountain. That's how you do this. And it's a situation where you've got to work at it every day. You've got to be passionate about it. You've got to believe in that. You've got to educate yourself. You've got to surround yourself with people like that, because I'm telling you what, this world is full of people that want to knock the knees out of the giant and make the midget look taller. There are so many naysayers out here that will just try to beat you down and tell you, "Oh, you can't do it. What makes you think you can do that? Are you crazy? You're talking that kind of a pipe dream with that kind of money?" Guess what? It's for real. It's for real. But you got to put in the work. You got to get the education. You got to surround yourself with the right people. And those naysayers, all they do is say, I appreciate your opinion, man, but I do what I do. That's it. Just straight up, I do what I do. And that's it.
But I want to say thank you so much for being here today, guys. Before you go, though, what's the best reason to call Value Add Partners right now? Who is the ideal person that you can help today?
I'm going to say this, our name says it all, man. We're value add. Everything we do, whether it be the property management side, whether it's the asset itself, whether it's just the relationship that we build with people, that's what we do. We're value add. We bring that to everything that we do.
When we partner with people, meaning that we're not necessarily a third-party company when people call us. We are actually your partner in this deal. So if it's not successful, then we're not successful. We don't make money unless the deal is successful. So our goal when we started this company was to be literally a trusted partner in this space, because as you may well know, and a lot of viewers may well know, is that when it comes to due diligence, construction, you can, lose your ass on that portion of it. If you have the money, have the right deal, and then go about it wrong from the end on, from the asset management, property management, or construction phase, you can really start losing money and the whole deal could go south. We understand that our partnership with other people is that they are trusting us and we are also trusting them in moving forward as a partnership on this deal. So we don't make money until they do. And so it's not like if we stop working or we don't have guys showing up or we don't have people on the job, it's like we don't take their money and run because we didn't make any money. Like we haven't, we have money in the construction side and that's it. So we're not like a traditional construction company or a third party, we're partners.
We're bringing our skills and talents into the deal for a chunk of equity. Yeah, we cover our overhead and that, our travel or whatever, but that's it. We're not making a big.
We don't profit. We don't profit on the construction.
And so that's one of the ways that we really work with different people on that. So.
Awesome. All right. So if you want to get in touch with Daryl or me or Kevin, then just go ahead and check out the link in the description, and I'll see you again next time.
All right, Dan. Thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having us.